All right, guys, let's go ahead and get rolling. I think we got, I don't know, 15, 20 people in here right now. Hopefully everybody else will get in here over the next couple minutes. So we have made it another week. I think our last live stream was last Thursday. So I hope everybody's doing good. Everybody's safe. Everybody's coronavirus free. And we just continue to try to move forward as best we can. So like I told you earlier in the week, the governor has recommended we stay closed, I think, through October 20th now. So tentatively, that's when we'll go back. But who knows? With times the way they are, we got to be prepared for anything. So we will have videos and/or live streams multiple times a week. So just again, be following those and making sure you're not falling behind and you're staying engaged. So where we are at is we're in section 5.4. Section 5.4 is all about factoring and solving polynomial equations. So the factoring part, I had you look through the section yesterday. Hopefully you had a chance to do that and look through some of those problems and just try to get a feel for it. Today I'm going to try to go through some of those guided practice problems and explain it kind of in as much detail as I can for right now. Then tomorrow you're going to finish that assignment. I know we talked about a quiz tomorrow, but we're actually going to push that to probably Monday because I want you to have a day or two to look over this last target and the questions that are going to be asked and have a chance to ask me questions. And if you have issues with particular types of problems, just let me know. I can make a short video. I made one for my pre-cal students, a short video over one type of problems, like a 3-minute video. Post it. It just explained kind of how to work through that problem. So if you're having issues, make sure you ask and make sure you're not falling behind. I'm going to probably be updating grades tomorrow, since tomorrow will kind of be a relaxed day with no live stream and stuff. So tomorrow I'll try to get all up-to-date grades in. So let's go ahead and jump into section 5.4. So yesterday you should have looked through that section, and today what we're going to focus on is we are going to look at those guided practice problems. If I can get my iPad to work here. The guided practice problems that I told you to take a look at if you had a chance. If you didn't have a chance yesterday, that's okay, because we'll get into those as well. So like we said, target number 4 in section 4 is factoring and solving polynomial equations. So we're going to start out with just basic factoring and look at 3 or 4 different examples. Then the last part of that you didn't really have in your guided practice problems was actually solving. So we'll get into the solving after that. Again, if I can get my iPad to work here. So let me get it connected. Wait just a second and I'll we will get going, hopefully. Technical difficulties is always fun. Not really. Alright, let's see here. Bear with me, guys. All right, if it doesn't get back going in a minute or two, we will, I don't know why that's not connecting. It's worked all day. You try connecting it one more time and we'll go to plan B. Oh, maybe. It says it's connected, but now it is All right, so we'll abandon that for right now. So let's go ahead and get in through the board instead of on the iPad. So let me get this situated where you can see the whiteboard instead. All right, so let's go through a couple of these this way, just so you have some examples here. Then if my iPad doesn't connect here in just a second, I'll post a video later that kind of explains the rest. But basically, kind of what we were talking about with this target is, let's do it right here, is how to factor something like guided practice problem number 1, which is x to the third power, subtract 7x squared plus 10x. Okay, so that's the type of problem. We have to do two things with this. We have to factor it, we have to solve it. So factoring just means we break it down into multiple parts that can multiply together to get back to this. So we're basically simplifying, right? If I factor the number 20, I can factor it into 10 times 2. Then I can break 10 into 5 times 2. And I do kind of that prime factorization. It's kind of the same thing here. We break it down in a way where we can get it simplified as far as possible, and then we work it from there. So when we're looking at this, the first thing you should notice is that you look for stuff they all have in common. So you have an x, an x, and an x. They all have an x. So the first thing that you can factor out is one of the x's, because this one only has one x, so you can't factor out more than that. So I would factor out one x and take one x away from everything. So x to the third, if I take one x away, becomes x to the second. 7x squared, if I take one x away, becomes 7x. And then 10x, if I take one x away, is just 10. So that would be my first step, is I just factor out anything that they all have in common. That gets it more in a more simplified form, and then you can kind of work with it a little more, because now we see we have a quadratic expression here in the parentheses. And with quadratics, we know we can break that down into those two binomials. So now it goes back to the last unit and the last thing on quadratics that we did with factoring quadratics. So now we're going to bring that into these polynomial equations and polynomial functions. So you see it says x squared minus 7x plus 10. So all I'm looking for is what can multiply to give me positive 10, but it's going to add together to give me negative 7. Well, if it's going to be here, this is positive, well, you know your factors have to be two negatives in order to multiply to give you that, but add to give you a negative term in the middle. So we have to think, what two factors of 10 can multiply together to give you 10, but add to give you 7? So that should be pretty obvious on this one. It's 5 and 2. So then we have x minus 5, because it's negative 5, and x minus 2, because it's negative 2. That right here, that is factored. So when it says we want to factor a polynomial, that's what we want to be able to do. We want to take this original polynomial up here and factor it into that right there, because those two are the same. If I do FOIL method here and then multiply everything by x, it's going to give me this original up here. So that's kind of the whole concept, is we're looking at breaking down a polynomial into a more simple form. Okay, so that's kind of the basis behind what this target is saying. Okay, so if I can't get the iPad working, what we'll do, or what I'll do, is I will record a separate video, and once I get my iPad working here this evening sometime, which you have through tomorrow and actually through Monday to get this done, but I will record a video, which now it's trying to work. So let's see here. I know this has been a wreck. So let's try to go here. And pull up this. So let's see if that'll work. All right, so there we go. So this is what we're trying to get. So that was guided practice problem number 1. All right, then you look at guided practice. So all these that we're doing today are the guided practice problems. So if you have questions, just look at those pages in those texts that I linked to the Google Classroom post yesterday and today. So the second one is 3y to the fifth subtract 75y to the third. All right. So if we're looking at that, we have to think about what do those two have in common that we can pull out. Well, first off, I see they're both divisible by 3, so I can pull a 3 out. And they both have 3 y's. So that outside term that I'm going to factor out is 3y to the third, because they both are divisible by 3, and the lower one has 3y. So they both have 3 y's in common. So now I just rewrite the problem. So I factored out a 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. So it's just 1y, and then I took away 3 of the y's, so I only have 2 left. Then 75 divided by 3 is 25. So subtract 25. And then I took 3 y's out, so that term does not have any y's left in it. So now I have what's in parentheses simplified, but now it's the difference of squares. So if you see that 25 is 5 times 5, well, you can break that down, because if you have y times y, that's going to give you y squared. Then if you have 5 times 5, that gives you 25. But we know if one's positive and one's negative, that gives you no middle term, because you're going to have positive 5y and negative 5y. So that can break down, and then you just bring down the 3y to the third. So now on that one, that is your simplified factored polynomial. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop until we get to the ones where we're actually going to actually solve. Okay, so that is guided practice number 2, and then the other one before that, we have 2 more, is number 5. So guided practice number 5 was x cubed minus 7x squared minus 9x minus 63. All right, so if you were looking at that and I ask you, what do they all have in common? I think you would first look at that and say, well, they don't have anything. Because your first coefficient is 1, so there's no coefficients they all have in common, and then not all the terms have an x. Put this down the middle. So now, what we're going to look at is we are going to factor the left side, see what we can pull out of that, and factor the right side and see what we can pull out of that. So if we look at the x cubed subtract 7x squared, weigh the x squared, so I have x subtract 7 in the second part. Okay, so now in the right half, we have a 9x and we have a 63. So both of those have a 9 in common. So here I'm going to pull out a 9. And I have to say, okay, what's going to be left inside? Okay, I have, and I think, yeah, the original problem I wrote wrong. This is addition here. Let me kind of highlight that a little real quick. Right here. The original problem was addition here. I was looking at something I knew it wasn't kind of adding up. So if we go back here, and this would be addition here. So we have x plus 7 on the left side. So now on the right side, we pull out negative 9 from negative 9x, so it leaves us with x. We factor negative 9 out of negative 63, that is positive 7. Okay, so you see that it has x plus 7 on both sides there. So now what we can do is we can bring that x plus 7 down as one of our factors. Then our other factor is going to come from the 2 terms that are still outside of those 2, which are here. And I'm going to box in the negative as well. So for the second part of that, you have the x squared subtract 9. Okay, so now to finish that out, you see you have an x squared. So again, we know that can be x plus 3 times x minus 3, because that's going to give you negative 9, and then positive negative 3 are going to cancel out. Then you have x plus 7. So your full factored polynomial is x plus 7 multiplied by x plus 3 multiplied by x subtract 3. Okay, so what we're going to do, since we've had so many technical issues, is we are going to stop there for the stream itself. We don't need that, so let's save that. So we're going to stop there so the stream's not too crazy long, and I will post a video later tonight or first thing in the morning to kind of go over those last few guided practice examples, but that should get you through kind of the first maybe 2 sets of problems on your assignment that I posted on Google Classroom, and then I'll take my time a little bit more when I'm not having technical issues and we're not having to worry about that. So look for a video either tonight or in the morning. I will post it on Google Classroom and kind of explain everything a little bit better where we're not having so many technical issues, and finish up the second half, because that was kind of the factoring. What I showed you was 2 examples of factoring a polynomial. Then the last part of that is going to be when we're actually using that to find the roots or the solutions to those equations. So that's what we'll get to later today, tomorrow. Look for the video, watch it when it's posted, and then look over those problems. Let me know if you have any questions over the weekend, and we will have a quiz on Monday. Okay, that'll do it. See you guys.